What's going on, everybody? You have Tone here, back with a brand new series that something I've been wanting to do for quite some time. This is pretty much episode 1 of my series called The Lockdown, where basically I bring you as much PU content as I possibly can, and I figured what better way to kick off the lockdown than to bring you coverage of the week 1 of the PUPL for my team, the Olivine Octilleries. So without further ado, I'm just going to quickly go over all the matches that happened for my team. So not wasting any more time, just going to jump right into this, going in order from the more current meta, being Sword and Shield, and going backwards all the way to Generation 4. So first game you see here, we have Yeezy Nose for the Olivine Octilleries. We're taking on my good friend Many and his team, the Klang gang. So this is one of 3 Sword and Shield matchups, Yeezy Nose versus Lax. Originally Somali was supposed to play Lax, but some IRL stuff came up on his end, so he ended up having to sub him out for Yeezy. Granted, I didn't really have much of a any assistance in terms of like building. Most of the Sword and Shield and even Gen 7 stuff was built by either the players themselves, or we have some pretty solid builders on our team like Royesk and Avarice, whose game I will show right after this. I focus more on the older gen stuff if possible. So this team in particular, Yeezy is bringing, this is a, if I remember correctly, it's a work up 3 attacks, Savali Electric, bulk up 3 attacks, heavy duty boots, reboot, a offensive Behem with Cobra Berry, Techni Top, Choice Scarf Basculin, if I remember that, and Spadef rocks Mawile because the team was pretty weak to like Glaceon and whatnot. And just looking at what Lax ended up bringing, Lax brought a pretty scary team, mostly a hazard stacking team, as his only stuff rocker is the Poniard. And because our Savali's on Savali Grass, Wish Cache is actually a bit of a problem. However, Savali Electric does have the Grass Pledge for the Wish Cache. So I'm just going to quickly play through these games really fast. So what's going to happen is Yeezy's going to end up leading off with Hitmontop, as Lax is going to lead off with Glalie. Yeezy's going to make a pretty good play here, turn 1, as he goes into Gourgeist. He clicks Aerial Ace right away, does 80%, confirm this is an offensive Gourgeist. Aerial Ace has pretty no drawback because he didn't really have a fighting resist at all. And now you're going to Aerial Ace the incoming Savali Electric for a good 21%. He multi-attacks as he stays in and reveals Bulldoze to knock out the Savali Electric. So the one big threat out of the way, back out comes the Gourgeist. And he goes for the Shadow Ball to knock out the Hitmontop. Kind of sucks, but Hitmontop more or less did its job already. In comes the Mawile. Lax is going to switch back out into the Glalie. He's going to knock off the Focus Sash from the Glalie. And he's going to get up a layer of Spice. We get up our rocks to pressure the Rhyme, even though the Rhyme is pretty much heavy duty boots. He's going to Toxic here, probably expecting him to go out into Wish Cache probably. He's just going to keep getting up. He's going to have his 3rd layer of Spikes. In comes the Savali Electric to take out the Glalie with the multi-attack. In comes the Wish Cache. Now he's going to reveal the Grass Pledge. Doesn't quite knock it out here, as he's going to go for the DD, which is fine because we do have a Scarf Basculin in the back. He's going to make the play and sack off the Behem because it did the least amount of work in this game because of the Poniard and the Rhyme. And now he's going to bring in the Choice Scarf Basculin to revenge kill the Wish Cache with the Surf. In comes a Mr. Rhyme now, as he's going to make the play out into the Mawile. I believe Rhyme's just going to rapid spin here, yeah. To get rid of the rocks, get the speed boost. And I believe he's going to go for either going to get up rocks again, or he's going to click Toxic. Okay, he's actually going to knock off the trying to knock off the boots on the rhyme. He said knocks off the violate on the poniard. He makes the aggressive play out into basculin, which is going to live the sucker punch. We knock out the poniard with the surf. In comes rhyme again. We surf again. Do a clean half. He's going to rapid spin, get the speed boost to be faster than the Savali electric, but we have the boots reboot, which is going to live on 19% with the from the psychic. We're going to kill the rhyme with the flare blitz, double down here, and all he has left is this Gorgeist, which is going to get picked off by ice beam from the Savali electric. So pretty fast paced game, as most of these games are definitely going to go here, but Yeezy made some pretty aggressive plays. He made some correct plays. The Behem sack was mandatory just because of the fact that it didn't really do much against what Lax brought, considering he still had a full HP poniard, psychic resist, and rhyme and all that stuff. So he felt that was pretty expendable, and he played really well to set up the end game for the Savali electric. Kind of sucks that he didn't get to that Grass Pledge did not knock out the Wish Cash. That was pretty unfortunate. He wouldn't have had to sack off Behem like he did had it killed, but nonetheless though, a really solid job by Yeezy pulling it out and picking up the first win of the season for the Olivine Octilleries. So moving on to the second Sword and Shield game, and this is probably my favorite of the three, just because of the reaction from a certain turn. So this is Avarice versus Pokemon is Fun, or PIF, well known in UU and in general just for being an extremely solid battler and lover of stall, but he can do other things than stall. But anyway, so this team was built by Avarice around the concept of making Rest Talk, Cosmic Power, Stored Power, Gothitelle work, and luckily for Piff's team, he does not have a Dark type, so Gothitelle is looking to have a good time in this matchup. Do have to be worried though about the potential of getting switcherooed by the Magnetric. But overall, this is a very bulky offensive, sort of semi-stallish team that Avarice ended up bringing. And then Pokemon is Fun's team is kind of balanced with some obvious bulkier threats. With Sharna, don't necessarily know what the set is. I don't think it's a setup variant with Blossom per se. I'm assuming it's like Healing Wish or Trick Room, just judging by the composition. Rocks Mawile. I don't know what the Sovaldi is on this particular team. I kind of want to say Grass, but Double Grass doesn't really make sense. Savali Electric doesn't make sense either. It could also be Savali Psychic, now that I think about it, but it's been a while since I actually took a look at this replay. But it was a pretty good game overall, and there were some good plays made by both players. So let's just start the replay and see what happens here. So obviously the win con for Avarice is definitely going to be that Gothitelle, as there's no Dark type on our opponent's team. Avarice is going to lead up with the throw, as Piff ends up leading off with Mawile. Which is kind of annoying, but he's going to stay in here knowing he can take any hit from this Mawile, considering it is a defensive variant, as he's going to knock off the leftovers on the Mawile. He goes into Stunfisk and gets its Rocky Helmet knocked off by the Mawile, goes for the Toxic, as Stunfisk gets up the rocks on our side. Granted, sorry about that. He's going to end up actually revealing Thunder Wave to paralyze the Blossom, which is actually pretty good, considering if it is Quiver Dance, then obviously we slow it down. He's going to make a double into Mawile as we go into Pawniard. In comes the Hakamo, or Hakamo, whatever. He's just going to go for Iron Head here, and he's going to make a double into Savali Electric as we go out into Togetic on the Mawile. So that was a good play on Piff's part. We're going to force to switch out again into Throw, as he gets to fire off a free multi-attack against our team, because Electric Resist is weakened with the Stunfisk. In comes Musharna for Piff's end, as he's going to Circle Throw out the Musharna. Back out comes Savali Electric. I believe he's going to do it again here, as he's going to multi-attack, Circle Throw, get the Savali Electric out, try to rack up the entry hazard damage on his team. In comes Magnetric, as he's just going to sack it off to the Thunderbolt. No sense in risking Stun Fist, despite the fact that it's still so low. In comes Savali Grass here as he goes out into Mawile, and I believe he's going to make the good double into Togetic, expecting him to not want to stay in here. He's going to taunt as we Flamethrower. Flamethrower was actually pretty free because Hakamao isn't really going to come in unless he goes straight with Sharna. Makes another good play, goes Pawniard as on the Toxic, and he's going to now knock off the Hakamao's Eviolite here. Pip makes another double into Savali as he goes back into Togetic. And at this point, he's just going to sack it off here, not wanting to risk the Stun Fist, because Stun Fist can still check the Mawile. He reveals Ice Beam here, but that's not going to do nearly as much damage as we revenge kill. Not really revenge, but we take out the opposing Savali Electric with the multi-attack. In comes the Manectric as we sacks off the Stun Fist here, expecting him to either want to Thunderbolt or Overheat, but he goes for Overheat here, and now in comes the Gothitelle. And hopefully it's time to set up here as he goes straight for the Cosmic Power on the incoming with Sharna. He goes back into Manectric because he knows his only way of dealing with it is to switcheroo these Choice Scarf. So Avarice is going to make the play and use the Pawniard as a switcheroo fodder as he takes the Choice Scarf. He goes back into Savali Grass as he's going to go for the Overheat, which is going to benefit Gothitelle even more as he gets to come right back in. Start setting up Cosmic Powers because there's absolutely nothing. Pip still has a chance to bring it back here, but it's going to take a lot of effort on the on essentially either Blossom or he goes out into Mawile here on the Healing Wish. So I guess his only play now is he's going to Toxic. He's either going to Toxic or Taunt here. Yes, he's going to Taunt here so that way he can't like heal up with Rest or whatnot. But unfortunately, he gets 2 KO'd by Stored Power here, and essentially that's going to be the game because as you're going to see, Volt switches out into Blossom on the sack. That thing just drops to Stored Power. In comes Manectric again. He's just trying to chip himself down to the point where he can probably win with a crit, but unfortunately he also gave the Gothitelle the competitive boost by Healing Wishing the Mawile, which I completely left out a while back. But yeah. This was a pretty fun one because of the fact I said it was my favorite one because of the fact that Piff kind of blanked on the whole competitive aspect, the ability competitive. Like there's absolutely no way that Shadow Tag Gothitelle will be allowed down here, but that whole concept of competitive is still pretty funny looking back on it, as it pretty much just made the Gothitelle sweep happen even quicker. So a really nice job on Avarice's part, just playing the Gothitelle well, saving it for the end game. Made some pretty solid doubles, even made some solid doubles on Piff's part as well. He played exceptionally well, despite the lack of a true psychic resist, as essentially was to Toxic and Taunt the Mawile, which got relatively low thanks to the early game that was played by Avarice. So yeah, we are currently up 2-0, looking to at least get the sweep of the Sword and Shield series. So moving on now to game number 3. This was another game where a substitution had to happen. Originally, Passion was supposed to play this game against Spatial Rendezvous, but Passion also had some IRL stuff come up, so ended up subbing him out for Solinar24, who played on Passion's behalf and is using a pretty funky team. Well, not funky, it has some cool sets, mainly headlined by the Heatmore, which is a Blunder Policy Inferno set, and the fact that there's even a Heatmore on this team and our opponent's fire resist is essentially Dusclops, or unless the Savali is Savali Rock. Heatmore is going to have a fun time in this game, especially considering the Heatmore does have knockoff to get rid of the Dusclops Eviolite. It's just a pretty fun team overall, not gonna lie. Hopefully Blunder Policy Heatmore is actually gonna put in some work in this game, because it actually does so much damage to Spatial Rendezvous' team. Like, it just goes in. But nonetheless, that being said, let's just see what happens in this game. So And also the Pikachu is actually pretty threatening as well because of Fake Out Extreme Speed. But he's going to lead up with Pikachu on the Dusclops. He goes out into Mawile. I believe he's just going to go straight for the knockoff right away to try to get rid of the Eviolite on the Dusclops. But he gets the Mawile instead. He gets the Volt Switch out into the Palpitoad, which is going to go for the rocks. And I believe he's going to go to double into Savali's Psychic, expecting the Roselia to want to come out, which does happen. He's going to go out into Dusclops on the, I believe the he defogs here because Heatmore is not Boots, obviously. So he's going to U-turn out into the Klang as expecting the Will-O-Wisp, but he's going to reveal Seismic Toss to get some chip damage off. He Volt Switches into the Palpitoad, trying to get rocks up again as he burns the Palpitoad, which doesn't really matter. It's a special attacker anyway. Back out comes the Mawile, and I believe he goes for rocks here. I thought he was going to go straight for the Earth Power right away. But he goes for Earth Power now. I completely blanked. I keep forgetting that Palpitoad's faster than Mawile. But anyway, Mawile is down. We don't have to worry about rocks for the rest of the game as he goes out into the Klang on the incoming Sleep Powder. He's going to spike up here as he's actually going to Sleep Talk and actually get Volt Switch. So a good Sleep Talk roll for us, which allows us to get in our Heatmore here, which is now going to go for the Inferno. I think he went straight for the Inferno on the incoming Dusclops. No, okay, so he went for Flamethrower first, and I think now he went for Knockoff to get rid of this thing's Eviolite, and I think he's going to go for Rest now. And I think now he goes for Inferno, and somehow he hit, which that surprised me. It's a 50% accurate move, and he hit the first try, and he gets the Sleep Talk on Will-O-Wisp, and I'm like, oh god, no, please. He went for Inferno again to get to activate the Blunder Policy as the Dusclops stays asleep, and now we get to go for the Flash Fire boosted Flamethrower, and it's going to knock out the Dusclops. So really, really happy to see Blunder Policy, Heatmore put in a lot of work here. Unfortunately, the Hitmontop is going to force us out, so we lose our speed boost, unfortunately, as he's just going to go for the Mach Punch. Ideally, he could have stayed in there, but Hitmontop goes down to this, to the Life Orb Power Whip. In comes the Roselia. He goes for the Life Orb Fire Blast. Does over half. I was actually hoping this thing would kill, but it does kill now with the explosion. Kills with the explosion, it gets the free switch back into Heatmore. I believe Heatmore can take any one hit, but he's just going to go straight onto the Klang, make the safer play, as the Mime's going to click Psychic, and I believe he's just going to Sleep Talk again on the incoming Savali Bug, and he's unfortunately going to get Rest this time, but it's totally fine because he's going to wake up this turn and now go for the Toxic on the Savali Bug. So that was actually a really stroke of good luck on that part. On the part of us getting the Toxic off, and we're going to Volt Switch out into the Pikachu, which is actually going to clean up the game. Not right here, but the combination of Fake Out plus Toxic plus Extreme Speed is going to knock out the Savali Bug, and we're actually going to knock out the Mr. Mime in the same fashion after we sack off the Klang or the Heatmore. Yeah, so we sack off Klang to the spikes. We go back out into the Pikachu so we can Fake Out an Extreme Speed, and yeah, we're going to end up sweeping Sword and Shield 3-0 on the combination of Heatmore plus Pikachu. Hashtag fear the future indeed. It was really really funny, exciting to see Pikachu putting in so much work, and even better seeing all three Sword and Shield games going our way. So at the very least, if we win at least one of the next 5 games, we do at least get to we get at least a tie of week number 1. So with Sword and Shield out of the way, now we're now going to go to Sun and Moon, which is essentially where we get 2 players from both teams place Sun and Moon. So this was our first Sun and Moon player with Lockjaw versus Ajna. I apologize if I mispronounced that. I didn't focus on Sun and Moon either. I focused, like I said, on Oras and somewhat of DPP as well. So Lockjaw brought a very interesting team. Well, interesting in the sense that it's kind of straightforward, but at the same time, it's kind of annoyed by Jellison a bit. Granted, we do have Lantern. I don't know what the Lantern set is. I'm assuming, based on the team composition, it's Assault Vest. But even so, like, it's the only real water resist, and Lantern has to check the Auroros, it has to check Jellicent, it has to check Oricorio Pom Pom because it's the flying resist. So yeah, Lantern is asked to do a lot of work here, and it's going to get pretty worn down pretty hard by pretty much everything, which does suck, and that's kind of why I wish Lantern got recovery. But nonetheless, though, it does seem possible to pull it out with either the Semi-Seer, and I'm assuming that's SD Savali Fairy, if I remember things correctly, because just for the fact of the fighting resist is just Pom Pom. And since HSCM has Hitmonchan, it's a little bit more difficult to deal with because the Hitmonchan response is going to be Savali if it's not Fairy. But nonetheless, though, just looking at it, is like I said, it's a little bit of a trickier spot for Lockjaw. He's going to end up leading off with Primeape as the Pom Pom comes in. He's going to go out into the double out the Lantern, he doubles out into Ferroseed, Volt Switch into the Semi-Seer as he gets up a layer of spikes. In comes the Kangaskhan, the aggressive play on the Nasty Plot. I'm thinking it was some specs, but Ferroseed's going to come in here as he's going to go for the fake out here, take the Iron Barb's damage. And now he goes out into his own Ferroseed, gets up the rocks. I think the Kangaskhan just has a very straightforward Silk Scarf set, or it could be, if the Jellicent isn't the Z move user, it could be Phytinium. It's either his Phytinium Kangaskhan or Flyinium Pom Pom from the looks of it. Because I go out, make the aggressive play into Hitmonchan, he's just going to go for the Fire Blast on the incoming the tank, Papa Berry Hitmonchan, forced out by the fear of the Mach Punch on the incoming Pom Pom, makes a double out into Lantern, expecting him to go out into the Ferroseed. So he's just going to get more momentum, but unfortunately the chip down from the spikes is going to rack up a little bit. Oh, I didn't even realize the Lantern wasn't even Assault Vest, it was lefties. So that's a little bit more annoying just because of the fact that his team is a lot weaker to Auroros now, especially with the Ferroseed and the Lantern getting chipped even more, as he's forced to keep doubling out on this Ferroseed, which is doing a really good job of keeping Lockjaw on the back foot. But he's going to go for the Fire Blast here. Not Blaze Rain, but it is enough to force him out as he goes to go for the Mach Punch again on the incoming Hitmonchan. He's going to stay in here on the Toxic. He double taunts, expecting him to go out into Pom Pom. He's going to taunt again. I'm trying to think what he was trying to do specifically. I think he was trying to catch the Ferroseed to want to come in on the Lantern. That's pretty much the only reason why I think he would triple taunt there, but I think at that point he would just go straight for the try to go for the Hurricane and knock out the Hitmonchan. But nonetheless, though, he's forced to go out into the Lantern here as the Ferroseed's going to come back in. As he Volt Switches, I believe, going back into the Savali Fairy, as this does pack Flamethrower, but I think he's going to protect, or he's going to go straight Jellicent. Okay, he actually makes the aggressive play out into the Kangaskhan. Okay, no burn there, so oops. So it makes a double out into Ferroseed, as he's going to make the double himself into the Hitmonchan. He's forced to go out into the Oricorio as he Drain Punches. At this point, I thought he would go to Predict and go for Toxic, but nonetheless, the Hitmonchan goes down, rocks are up to stay. Back out comes the Auroros, which is pretty much, I think he was trying to bluff the Choice Scarf, but he is unfortunately going to miss the Hurricane as the Auroros takes out the Oricorio with the Hurricane, as he's actually going to bluff being Choice. He did a good job bluffing Choice and forcing the Lantern in. So yeah, this team is now very, very weak to Jellicent, which is unfortunate, especially since he needs to go Ferroseed to deal with Kangaskhan, and the fact that the spike plus the hail chip and forcing his own Ferroseed to take the he's using his own Ferroseed to chip away at the opposing Ferroseed with the with the gyro ball is actually very detrimental because of the fact that Jellicent is now even more of a problem with the lantern gone. He makes the play out into the pom pom. He does get the stay into Elite C, which is fine. He goes hard into the Primeape here, as he gets lucky and dodges a Hurricane. Hurricane wasn't no drawback play because he didn't have a flying resist. He is going to get the Ice Punch to knock out the pom pom, but the Jellicent gets to come in for free. And I believe he's just going to Yep. Like I said, this is the first time I'm seeing this game, so I figured the Jellicent would be a big problem, but Trick Room was actually the worst possible scenario that could pop up in this situation, because the Ferroseed cannot do anything to this Jellicent, and he's just going to pop the Never-Ending Nightmare on the Ferroseed. Not going to kill it, but it is going to be enough to Elite C before it can go for another attack to knock out the Ferroseed. In comes Simisear, and he's going to go for the Bloom Doom. Yeah, he goes for Bloom Doom, does kill it, but unfortunately, the combination of Kangaskhan with Fake Out plus Sucker Punch, well, the Fake Out spam is just going to knock out the Savali. He's just going to sack off the Ferroseed to the Flamethrower. Kangaskhan comes back in, and it's just going to Fake Out, and that's going to be the game, unfortunately. So it was a closer game than expected. We could have had a chance to tie, but despite the circumstances, it was still a really good game, a really close game, a close 1-0 game. But like I said, I knew Jellicent right away was going to be a big problem. Trick Room, especially considering if he gets to set up on the right Pokemon, which unfortunately was the getting the Primeape to lock himself into Ice Punch was the optimal play, and the combination of the all the hazards plus the pressure put on by Kangaskhan and the Auroras doing a good job bluffing, not being choiced, was a really good ploy on Ashina's part to get rid of the Lantern for the Jellicent. So we're still up 3-1. We still have a chance to at least force a tie. So moving on, game number 5. This is the second Sun and Moon game between Kashalos and Estarossa. This team was more so built by Roy. This team was more so built by Roy. The only thing I remember about this team specifically was that the Gastrodon was Rindoberry, because Roy pointed out the fact that Estarossa has a big hard-on for Caracosta, and figured that he would use Caracosta at any point in the series. So that explains the Rindoberry and the Gastrodon. I think everything else is just pretty straightforward. I think with the exception being either the Swanna or the Persian is the Z user on this team. I don't exactly remember off the top of my head. Like I said, I didn't really focus on Sun and Moon for this week, as I felt confident enough with Roy's building abilities to go through all that trouble. So let's just see what happens here in this game between Kashalos and Estarossa. So Kashalos is going to end up leading off with the with the Swanna, as it pretty much had the best matchup against most of his team, if not all of it, bar the Oricorio. He's actually going to reveal the that he's physical. This is a physical Choice Scarf Swanna, as he's going to make the play out in... Okay, this wasn't Scarf because the Sandslash switched out first, so I'm assuming that's Scarf, Alolan Sandslash. So anyway, in comes the Haunter now on the Bronzor, going for Rocks. He's going to try the Sludge Bomb to catch the... He goes for Sludge Bomb trying to catch the Persian, I believe. So he gets it now, as he unfortunately gets the knockout on the Persian, which does suck, but it does allow him to go out into the Cryogonal here and just go for the... it goes for the Frost Breath. I'm trying to remember why he was Frost Breath, and I remember this team is kind of weak to Calm Mind Mush, if I remember correctly. This should have Toxic, but like I said, I don't know the entire set off the top of my head. He's going to sack off the Swanna to the Life Force Shadow Ball to get the free switch back into the Cryogonal, and I believe he's just going to either going to Frostbite or recover this turn. He's just going to go for the Frostbite to knock out the Savali Fairy. which does free up Primeape a little bit more. Granted, there's still the Pom-Pom in the back. In comes Caracosta as we go Gastrodon. Estimates a good double out into the Oricorio, as he forces Kashal to go out into Bronzor. He goes for the U-turn, so this is pretty much Scarf. I kind of want to say it's Scarf, it's definitely not set up. He goes for Shadow Ball here, knocks out the Haunter with the Psywave. We're a bit weaker now to the Torterra, as he's just going to force the Z move on the Oricorio, as he doesn't want to miss Hurricane. Gets a rest off. So in comes the Sand Slash now. He's going to go for the recover here, and I know for a fact this is a Scarf Alola Slash, but he's going to make the double into Torterra, as he's going to bring in the force in the Primeape. Excuse me. I just go straight for the Ice Punch. It was actually no drawback. He's going to Wood Hammer. It doesn't kill it, but it does. The Wood Hammer recoil kills the Torterra. Gets the free switch into Caracosta, which allows him to Shell Smash, which he could Shell Smash, but the Gastrodon was still at relatively high HP. He is going to Stone Edge, does nothing, goes into the Pom-Pom, recovers with the damage. In comes the Cryogonal, I believe. He's going to Roost, and Frost Breath, excuse me, words, is extremely free here, as he's just going to go for the Frost Breath on the incoming Caracosta. And granted, he could stay in, but unfortunately he is going to go for the Hidden Power Fighting, trying to catch the Alola Slash coming in on the Frost Breath, but he is going to Frost Breath again on the Oricorio, sack that thing off, and comes the Alola Slash, which I believe he's going to go Icicle Crash, yeah. So basically the only way Esther can bring this back, he has to like flinch this, he has to flinch this, but unfortunately he still loses to the Scarf Primeape clicking close combat. And his only chance now is to just Shell Smash at the actually was Figgy Berry. He's going to HP Fighting, he Shell Smashes, but the problem is even if he was HP Grass, as I mentioned, the Gastrodon was Rindo Berry, so it didn't really matter at this point, as he's actually just going to go for Stone Edge. He gets the crit, but it doesn't do enough to knock it out, as we knock out the Caracosta with the Scald, and that's going to be the game. So we pretty much, at least at this point, guarantee a tie with the Klang game. Currently it's now 4-1. Really good playing on Kashalis' part, especially with the way he kept the Gastrodon healthy in the back for the Caracosta. And really aggressive early game with the physical Swanna as well. So let's see if we can now at least get the win for week number 1. And this is pretty much the only team at least for this week that actually put in any work in, because the team that Blue YM is using here is actually the team that I built with 2 essential changes. Well, not 2 essential changes, but 2 changes were made for this team, but the concept remains that it's just this team, which is basically just put together on the sense of we were just reminiscing about ORAS as a whole, and then Bughouse came in and it was like, I don't remember ORAS, all I remember was Doggo was broken, and I'm like, okay, let's make Doggo broken again, and I just ran a Trump reference and I hate myself. But nonetheless, that aside, the concept of this team is still pretty straightforward. The original team that I built was utilizing Ban, Stoutland, and Specs Mime to break stuff for a late game sweep with SD Ninjask, Rock's Probopass with Air Balloon for stuff like Matang and something else in particular. Golem, obviously, so it can't EQ right away. Fist Def Lumineon with Hidden Power Fighting for Pawniard, and Choice Scarf Rotom Frost for speed control, but the team got switched up, so the Mime went from being Specs to Scarf, and the Rotom went from Scarf to Rest 3 attacks, because the Rotom Frost switching was Rotom Frost, essentially speaking. So yeah. And looking at the team that Slowbroth brought, it's kind of another reminiscent team of some bulky hazard stacking core with Quilladin plus Golem, Bouffalant, most likely Assault Vest, just because this team is kind of weak to like special attackers if it's not AV. I'm assuming the Mime is Scarf and the Floatzel. Floatzel and Combustion are probably the two biggest threats to this team, just because of the fact that they're the two most versatile problems for this team. Granted, if it's physical, Luminion can check it better, but if it's special with like Hidden Power Grass or Hidden Power Electric, it could be a bit more problematic. Same thing can apply with the Combustion if they are both special. If they're both physical though, I think we'll be fine. But yeah, Floatzel is definitely a problem for this team if it is the special variant. Nonetheless though, the late game sweep with the SD Ninjas is still possible if we are able to weaken the Golem as early as possible. So we're going to end up leading up with Probopass. He leads up with the Quilladin. He's going to make the switch out directly into Ninjas as he gets up a layer of spikes, force out the U-turn as he goes out into the Golem, do a clean 29 to that thing. Back out comes the Probopass as he's going to get up his rocks, I believe. Yeah. On the incoming Bouffalant, he's going to go for the Frustration because he needs to break the balloon so the Bouffalant can Earthquake. He's just going to Power Gem for 20%. That's definitely an Assault Vest Bouffalant. He goes hard into Stoutland on the incoming Frustration. And now it goes out into Quilladin, expecting maybe a superpower, but he's actually going to end up critting Return. I think this is actually the first crit of the series regardless. In comes the Floatzel as we go to Luminion, as he's going to Ice Beam, revealing that this is most likely special. And then he confirms it by going for Hidden Power Electric, which is going to 2 KO us. So this makes us a little bit more prone to Combustion. Granted, we do have the means to deal with Combustion if we're able to at least get the get a speed boost before it get to +3, if I remember correctly. But he's actually going to pursuit the Mime and knock that thing out. Granted, he could have just stayed in and got some more damage off on the Bouffalant instead of trying to preserve it. But Blue's gonna make it a great prediction. Superpower on the Choppleberry Golem here, which is going to take 2 superpowers to knock that thing out. But it does allow him to go into Combustion, get the Protect off, and this is where things get a little bit dicey. He could have been aggressive here and made a hard play into Ninjas, but he decided not to, and sack off the Stoutland. Obviously, he didn't want the Combustion to set up for free. He's going to Protect here as he goes for the Aerial Ace. But luckily for us, we are Speed Boost, not Infiltrator. Granted, if we were Infiltrator on this team, we definitely would have lost right there. I'm not going to lie. Granted, he did have to hit like a Focus Blast, as he is going to knock out the Bouffalant with the X Scissor, and that's essentially going to be the game here, as we are just going to U-turn out, sack off the, or try to sack off the Rotom, which is going to die to 2 Psychic hits. We need to go out into Probopass or Ninjask again and just Aerial Ace twice, and that's essentially going to be the game because the Combustion cannot outspeed boost us no matter how many protects he goes for. So yeah, really happy with the way this game, how the team performed. Really happy with how Blue performed with the team as a whole, and we end up confirming that we win the week for week number 1. But there's still 2 more games to play, one in Gen 5 and one in Gen 4. So, quickly moving on to Gen 5, King Why Not versus... Hey! It's too late for that. Anyway. Good God, he's still going. Okay, that was actually pretty funny. As funny as this game, and even funnier than the team that King Why Not ended up bringing, because as you see, King Why Not ended up bringing a team with not a single ice resist on it whatsoever. If our opponent run a Semi-Pour, we had no switch-ins to Ice Beam on this team. I did not touch Black White at all. I was laughing so hard when I saw this team preview, and I'm trying to think, what was his response to ice types or ice moves in general, and he said, and I quote, "The ice resist is Pursuit Stoutland." I had to take him seriously because it was literally the only Pokemon on this team that's not weak to ice. Granted, our opponent did not bring an ice type or any Pokemon with ice type attacks, so yeah, he really lucked out this week. I don't know how. I don't like, the whole thing is like a massive blur. The whole thing is a massive blur. I still find this thing funny to this day. Like, how the heck did he get it? How did we let him get away with bringing this team and no one tried to fact check it or anything? But nonetheless, let's see how it goes with the fact that we don't have to worry about Semi-Port 6-0ing us. But so our opponent leads up with Stoutland, which is going to reveal to be Intimidate. And this, judging by the damage from the Leafeon Leaf Blade, that looks like Choice Band. I just want to say that this definitely looks like Choice Band, the damage from the Leafeon. He's actually going to go for the Thunder Wave on the Duosion, recover up here, and I believe he's going to keep spamming return. He gets a crit to knock out the Duosion. I don't necessarily know how that went. That's going to go, but anyway, he's going to go on the throw, gets the bulk up, gets the +1. He's going to go out into the Natu, bulks up again. Granted, I don't really know much about Black-White PU, but I do know the fact that such a thing as knockoff isn't really that common because knockoff is not as good as it was in generations afterwards. He does make the aggressive play out into the Dodrio to force the rest. He goes on the Stun Fist, and that looks like Scarf Dodrio. As he ends up going for the Scald here. Doesn't get the burn, thankfully, but he is going to try to get a leftovers recovery back with the Protect as he keeps spamming Brave Bird. I'm assuming at this point he was going to go out into Klang, but he does catch the Stun Fist going for Stealth Rock, knowing it can take another Brave Bird hit. And now he makes the double out into Torterra on the incoming Scald. Luckily, no burn. So essentially, Earthquake is pretty free as he's forced to go out into his own Torterra. That does nothing, so I'm assuming this is like a tank. This is a more defensive Torterra, forced to go out into Natu on the Woodhammer, which does nothing. And I'm assuming he's just going to Nightshade or switch out. Yeah, he's going to U-turn on the incoming Klang into the Stoutland to at least force the superpower, I believe. But he's going to Volt Switch out into the Torterra. Unfortunately, does get fully paralyzed, which isn't that big of a deal. He goes for Woodhammer. We do live to hit. He goes for the Facade. Almost knocks out the Torterra, I think. And he pretty much was either forced to either stay in and heal or try to get the heal or force the full para. Does get the full para. Tries to catch the another Pokemon with a Thunder Wave. He is going to go out, make a very aggressive doubles with these with the Dodrio, and comes back in with the Klang. He goes to return this time, doesn't do much damage. He's going to stay in and return again, gets another crit. As he's end up going to sleep, he's going to not go for the Sleep Talk. I think he forgot to click Sleep Talk the previous turn. That's what threw me off. So he's gonna get the Volt Switch, knock out the Dodrio, which allows the Leafeon to come in, revenge kill with the Leaf Blade because everything has already been put into range of Choice Band and Leaf Blade. I'm assuming it's banned from the damage output that it did so much to the Stoutland after the Intimidate. He's going to try to sack off the Stoutland here on the as he Sleep Talks the Storm Throw to get rid of the Intimidate. And now it goes back out into Leafeon, which does 2 KO this throw with the Leaf Blade. And he's actually going to end up getting rest this turn on the Sleep Talk roll. And I believe at this point, yeah, he just ended up forfeiting because the rest of his team just straight up dropped to Choice Band and Leaf Blade. So, yeah, that was a weird game. Granted, the opponent did get really unfortunate with the Sleep Talk rolls, and there was that one turn where he actually forgot to click Sleep Turn. I don't know if it was intentional or otherwise, but at the very least, we are now up 6-1. with the chance to now finish the week going 7-for-8, and that only leaves the DPP PU game between Z Spades and Toy Time King. Granted, there is no team preview, obviously, in DPPPU. I don't remember the team that Z Spades ended up bringing, but he did bring a bunch of cool, underrated, and some underappreciated mons for sure. Hopefully, get to see a little bit more diversity than we've seen from previous games, but both of these guys have a lot of creativity. Both of these guys know the metagame, so it's going to be a good game regardless of who wins, and we already won the week, so no pressure. But in any case, I believe the lead for Z Spade's team was Relicanth. Relicanth is actually an extremely good lead in most situations because of the fact that it keeps out other lead rockers like Rhydon. It keeps out Purugly, since Purugly doesn't really run hidden power grass as well. It doesn't run it pretty much at all. I think it was mostly like Water Pulse to catch like Rhydon or whatnot. But he's actually going to lead off with Toy Time King. Actually going to lead off with Kadabra, which is basically Sash Inner Focus. So that's normally what they are to catch lead Purugly. He's going to go into Blossom on the hidden power grass. I'm pretty positive it's HP grass for the to catch Rhydon. We get the discharge para on the Blossom as it goes for energy ball. This is especially defensive Ampharos because I believe this is the Mantine check. And now he's going to make the aggressive play into Murkrow on the Sleep Powder, and he's actually just going to sack off the Blossom to the Brave Bird. So yeah, Brave Bird, not Brave Bird, Murkrow, another one of those underrated Pokemon. He's going to Sucker Punch here to force him to go for the Sash as he goes for the counter to knock out the Murkrow. So Murkrow essentially just killed 2 Mons. In comes the Zangoose. The quick attack as he goes into Mischievous. He switches out to Ampharos on the Will-O-Wisp. And now he goes out into Gabite. Like I said, doesn't really know what his he definitely had some sort of ground type, but it's hard to say what it was. As he's forced to go out into his own Blossom on the Earthquake. I'm assuming this is a Scarf. I'm assuming the Gabite was Scarf at the very least. As he goes Mischievous on the Leech Seed, he goes back out into Ampharos, trying to get some health back from the Shadow Ball. Does absolutely nothing. That just shows how incredibly bulky Ampharos is. Back out comes the Gabite. Spades make a good double into the Zangoose as he goes out into the Mischievous, makes a triple so it's a lot of triple switching around at this point. As he Psychics, he's going to go for Rest here on the Spadef drop, unfortunately. He goes for Psychic, and unfortunately he gets crit, which sucks. If he had gotten any attacking move on the Sleep Talk, it would have killed the Kadabra. But he is going to go out into the Mischievous again on this Zangoose. In comes Blossom again on the Will-O-Wisp. It's still anyone's game at this point here, but he is going to Leech Seed now to knock out the Kadabra. And this ended up, spoiler, this is gonna backfire at this point as he goes Magmar after the Kadabra sack, goes for Fire Blast, and now he's going to make the switch out into the Gabite, goes for Waterfall. Now he protects as he goes for Earth on the Outrage, and I believe he's just going to stay and take the Outrage as it's not going to kill. We kill the Gabite back with Waterfall. So Scarf Gabite is down, in comes to Magmar. He protects again as he's going to reveal Hidden Power Grass on the Magmar to knock out the Relicanth, which allows us to then go out into our own Mischievous. He's going to reveal his last one being Relicanth. Shadow Ball does a decent chunk. Spam Shadow Ball again as he's just going to Head Smash to knock out our own Mischievous. We go, which is with the free switch into Zangoose. He goes out into Mischievous, and as he goes for the close combat, he's going to actually reveal Sword Stance and go for Shadow Ball, expecting the Blossom to want to come in, and that's actually going to be the game. So yeah, this was an extremely good job by Z Spades bluffing the flame body burn actually sucked there at the end. Imagine that happened beforehand. But in any case, that was an extremely good ploy by Z Spades, bluffing the fact that the Zangoose was scarfed the entire time. It also helped with the fact that TTK kept going mischievous on the Zangoose every time it went for close combat or close combat or quick attack. And he actually did a really good job not revealing Shadow Claw, let alone SD. So yeah, I knew the team as a whole, how it functioned and whatnot. Yeah, but I knew that the Zangoose had a chance in the back if he was able to get rid of the Kadabra. Granted, it was essentially already dead once the sash was broken by the Murkrow, but nonetheless, that is going to be the series. We end up taking 7 out of the 8 games played for week number 1. Really happy with the performance of everyone on the team. The only one loss we took this week was a very narrow 1-0 loss by Lockjaw, so despite the loss, really happy about that. Didn't get the sweep, but this was an excellent way to kick off the PUPL for us, especially considering the fact that we were pretty much pegged power rankings dead last. Again, I don't really care much for power rankings. It's not really my thing to get worked up over someone else's opinions and whatnot. I may not draft like well-known people or like people that stand out or whatnot or have good tour records or reputation or everything like that. I just draft people and try to give people a chance. That's pretty much all I look for when it comes to those sort of situations. Granted, there are some exceptions between Yeezy and Kashalos and KW as well. Although KW is going to have to make sure we have to get you an ice resist on that team next time. Now we're not getting away with that next week. I'm telling you from now. But despite all of that, that is going to be the recap for week 1 of the PUPL. If anything looks a bit laggy or whatnot, I do apologize. This is the first episode, and this is actually the first time I'm recording in quite a while. But nonetheless, really happy with the team, really happy with how everybody performed, how everybody came together, built, and all that stuff. So yeah, if you guys enjoy, leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. I will attempt to cover all the PUPL games for the Olivine Octilleries, and I hope you're looking forward to week number 2. Again, GG to Many and his Klang gang. Your guys are definitely going to rebound. You're definitely going to rebound. It's only week 1. No sense in trying to beat yourself up after a pretty bad unfortunate performance. But nonetheless, that's going to be it from me, guys. Again, hope you guys did enjoy. And until the next time, Mr. Lockdown, this is Tone, signing out for now. Peace out.